That's everybody see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Tell me who you are, you don't need to talk to me.
Mine pretty much take the position. He needs to be two young men. That's what I mean, that's what. You gotta tell me that.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
I was gonna go solve the numbers.
Had your. So going to protect you, is that? Good.
Hope you're better this time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, very big thing.
It's supposed to be cool tomorrow, yes. So it'll be fine.
How many?
22.
That's good.
Four girls for the first time in a long time in the games. So a lot of freshman girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. So what do you which is no different than a bad thing. Get staff out either because they're sick or their kids are sick.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 5:35, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. I could join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, no proclamations, so we're gonna move on to public comments, petitions, memorials. If Jay would like to come up to the podium and talk about Cub Scout Pack 117.
Good evening. They're wanting to do another fishing derby like we've done in the past couple of years at the Hiawatha City Lake. It would be on September 14th. We don't really need anything from the city other than permission to use. I don't know if we have to decide a side since it's a public. I mean, in the past, we've used the south side, but it is a lot flatter on the north side of the lake. It's not really something we discussed as a committee until, well, we haven't, Joe, Donna and I talked about it the other night. So I didn't know if we could just kind of have permission to use the lake. Anybody else could use the lake while we're there. But we just wanted permission to get it checked out before we let everybody know or ask anybody. We could probably start already, it'd be around 10 o'clock in the morning. We'd be done by 1. We'd have everything cleaned up by 1 p.m. and out of there.
They use the shelter houses too.
Well, I need to discuss that with the ladies downstairs. I think we need to rent one shelter house. I think is all we've needed in the past, just to,
The Girl Scout shelter is already in use that day, but all the other ones are available.
okay,
So I'll
so
just put you down.
if we could just rent one shelter, that would be perfect, so. Just basically, this is our big event for the year. We invite everybody and then hopefully somebody will sign up. This is a better way to get leaders, hopefully, so. We just wanted to get permission or see if it's possible.
Do we need a motion for that, or you could just say it's okay?
I think that having a motion would be good.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to allow Cub Scout Act 117 to use the city lake for the fishing derby on September 14th. Is there any, or no, is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion?
Yeah, I think that's great. You guys always do a good job. Have we not paid, I know I did personally one time. I was not on the commission
You had volunteered one
one
time.
time and I paid for your shelter.
But we understand that you can't just give it to one and because then everybody else is asking for it. We have no problem paying for it. It's just, it'll help us out to have a shelter house to keep, because I think we've got hot dogs and stuff that we'll feed everybody and just where we kind of have a place to put everything. Or we really
But
need.
the boys always clean up so well afterwards. I'm just so proud of you and your helpers and your boys and the troop. Magnificent.
Thank you.
And any other discussion? If not, Don? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nate, Brian?
Yep.
They can hear you.
Or
Dave,
can you not
Brian,
hear
can
me?
you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Right.
Brian said yes.
Okay, because we cannot hear you guys. You know, it works for a while and then it doesn't. Thumbs up for voting yes. Thumbs up if you vote yes. Okay, motion passed. Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Thanks.
So, wasn't there a switch or I need to be quiet because you.
Dave, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you both.
Thank you.
Brian, Dave, can you say something?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Do we hear you?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, okay, let's move on then. Moving on to the consent agenda, Brad, is there anything you need to add or discuss?
A lot of these are the bond payments that we have for the bonds that we have outstanding. We do have a payment, pay request of 3 from Urban Contractors for the phase 1A of the sewer project. The amount of $59,780. But a lot of these, like I said, a lot of these are just for bond payments. But we also have on here to adopt ordinance number 2128.
this is regulating the traffic within the corporate limits of the city of Hiawatha. And we also have ordinance number 2129, which is an ordinance that regulates public offenses within within the corporate limits of the city of Hiawatha. This is something that we do every year. We just need, these are just things that need to be done.
Are these those two little books
Yes.
that we used to get all the time and we don't get anymore until we're supposed to vote on it?
I'll ask for them. I didn't.
Do you know anything about it?
Not to whether or not you've got it.
So what was it last year and what's the difference this year? I mean, how can we vote on something that we don't know what's going on? That's why I always request it so that we can read them.
So this is, both of these are publications by the Kansas League of Municipalities, I believe. So our ordinance refers to the Uniform Public Offense Code and the standard traffic offenses. It's annually updated. Sometimes there's no changes. Sometimes there are some. I'm not aware of any changes in the traffic code, so it may be very similar. I haven't seen it either, so we usually get them in time. They reflect the laws that were passed effective July 1st on the state level, basically.
Providing certain penalties, repealing ordinance.
So the ordinance we're repealing is the ordinance that approved last year's meeting.
And it's one of those things that if we didn't approve it, we couldn't enforce that anyway, right? I mean, if the league sent it, if the league sent it, you assume that's.
All we have to do is get these two little books that are available.
And we keep one, there's copies here. I know there's probably a copy for the municipal judge, I think in that category. I get a copy, but if you need a copy, we can make sure we get extra copies.
And I have it in my notes for future.
I remember asking for one last year.
Those are the same for every municipality.
Every municipality that adopts the code is their own.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
No discussion, Tony, are you okay? I mean, or is there any further discussion on the motion, I guess?
I don't know if there's a difference between between this year and last year on these ordinances, so I know I have to abstain from the minutes of the last meeting. So because of that, I'm not going to approve it because of the ordinance, the two ordinances.
Any further discussion? If not, Don? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain and nay. Okay, that's
Good one.
listen, what else can I do?
Brian, did you approve or no?
I'll say no.
So that's all
I agree. I don't know what's in those last two as well.
Then the motion passed 3-2. Moving on to old business.
First Street corridor, this last Wednesday, we received 2 bids for engineering proposals. We had sent out an RFP earlier in July. We had 2 proposals back. In reviewing these proposals, both of these proposals left out anything for credit for crossings or any kind of improvements that might be necessary at First and Oregon. As far as the actual proposals go, though, the way that they were set out is that we wanted the intersection to meet the current METCD guidelines. And so really what needs to be done there is we have to have a survey done, we have to have engineering done before we know what's going to be needed at that intersection. I can't say for sure that we're going to need crosswalks there, or that we're going to be needing any kind of geometric improvements, which would be like curb and gutter, drainage changes, shutting down the driveway, things like that. And so I'm not sure that any of those things will be needed, but that's all going to be dependent on the NETCD guidelines. And those things, and so in reviewing these two proposals side by side, it's hard for us to say that one's cheaper than the other. They're actually very close in price. And so what I'm wanting to do here is kind of get some guidance. We have really two options here. We can send these back out, have them propose something for geometric improvements, things like that, or we can accept the proposals as they are. And so if we did that, I would just like some discussion on that.
Well, if we're supposed to be meeting the standards, you know, new TCD standards, I think we need to have the total picture. I'd hate to not get the whole picture of it. I would hate to not be ADA compliant and then be in the same boat where of other cities that have lawsuits against them. So to me, to get the total picture, we need to have all of it and not just what would a light cost.
Are you talking including the pedestrian?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we need to have all of that. And I thought that's what we had decided on at our last meeting, that we needed to have whatever was gonna meet the standards. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents.
I would like to just add, I was under the impression that KDOT was willing to help us with pedestrian crossing. And they said even help with getting grants for that. And if I haven't had time to actually find that email yet, but I do have it. And I have one from Leroy, and it says, if pedestrian actuation is to occur at this intersection, pedestrian infrastructure accommodations need to be incorporated. So it says if. So what I'm saying is, I feel that our bids are fine the way they are. If they want us to add them later, we can accommodate that. But I feel like we're putting a lot more into this than what's going to be required, and that's from Leroy's letter that he sent out for requirements of this intersection.
It was my understanding also that that we did not have to do the sidewalk or the pedestrian crossing at the same time. I'm almost positive that I have that email. I tried to keep everything that KDOT has said. And I do have a copy of Leroy's letter. My mind just went blank, I'm sorry. But I do, KDOT has told us so many things and then backed out and, you know, denied saying it, that I just don't know. Can they put an amendment on the bids that they've already given us for the pedestrian crosswalk?
Yes, I do believe that is something that we can do. That's why we didn't attach the bids themselves to the packet. We wanted to keep each engineering firm we only give its price.
I can't believe that we only got 2 bids.
It would have been nice if we'd had more, but. Evans, what are you thinking?
Brad,
Well, I
was
do
the
remember-
pedestrian crossing, was it in the RFP?
The only thing in the RFP is that it needs to meet the current METCD guidelines. And so really that's going to be dependent on the design. And so whatever that design calls for, as far as what the METCD is what that's going to require. And so it could require crossings, it may not require crossings. It really just kind of depends on what the initial, they'll come up and they'll do preliminary engineering. And so what they'll do, they'll come up and survey the intersection, look at it, you know, they'll kind of do their preliminary engineering and say, okay, this is what you need per the METCD guidelines, which is what KDOT will accept as far as the project. We don't know, we won't know the answer to that question until the actual the preliminary engineering is done.
Evans,
So I
what do you
think
say?
Brad said that, yeah.
Dave, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I think we've already got a good enough estimate of what this thing could cost. I think we need to move on and figure out how we're gonna pay for it. These bids we got are in line with what BG gave us for their initial engineering fees. I don't see any need to go out for any more numbers. Let's move on and do something and get this going.
The only thing I'm concerned about is what if we do need those improvements? I mean, and especially if we're trying to figure out how to pay for it. Don't we need to have the total picture? And not saying that we're gonna, I mean, if they say we don't need to do the geometric improvements, then we take that out, but. Right, but I hesitate not having the total picture, because if they say we do, and all of a sudden that adds 100 or 200,000 or 50,000 or whatever, that's gonna impact how we fund it. I mean,
And the question too is how fast can they do a preliminary?
any ideas, Brad? How long will it take?
Under both proposals, they did have kind of a timeline what we could expect there, so I will kind of get into those real quick. And so this is SBD Engineering. They would be looking at, let me get to their timeline really fast, just give me a second, sorry about that. So they have scoping, contracting, topographic survey, and conceptual design done by December of this year. So we would have something for Hiawatha KDOT review in January of 2025 by SPD. And let me look at, it was very similar with BG, but let me look at that real fast.
Did you say, is it SBD? I'm sorry, I can't remember the, what
Yes,
was the name of it?
I wasn't speaking directly to the microphone there.
But I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Was it SBD?
That's correct, yes.
So do we just need a motion to approve their bid, or?
That's really up to the commission to decide which direction they want to go. Knowing that if those kind of geometric improvements are needed, then yes, it'll be more engineering costs on the back side of that. And that'll also add more to the final project cost. However, if we're going to move forward with the two bids, is that the direction that we're wanting to go?
How long would it take for us to get the bid? I mean, if those two, how long would it take to get from the two companies that bid to find out how much more it would cost to get that part added on, the amended part?
I thought about trying to bring this back to the next meeting in September, our first meeting in September, which would be September 9th, I believe. And so I'm giving them 2 weeks to bring back engineering numbers for that as well. I thought about reaching out to both of those. I hesitate right now to say which one is less expensive, just because I don't want to run the process. But we could give them 2 weeks to get us a proposal. They already have most of the proposal line, is just adding a little bit to it.
Right? I just don't see the sense of adding it until we find out if we actually need it. Everything from KDOT says we don't, and like I said, we have that email saying that they're willing to help us get that and get grants and work with that in a future date. So the biggest obstacle right now is getting the signal in place, and we can always work on that later. If they do require us to add it, which it doesn't, from everything I read, I do not see that they're going to do that. But I say we get this ball rolling.
I got a question on this specification. It says that this project will be there'll be 2 phases for the project. The first phase is design and estimation of cost, and the second phase being a construction phase after the city secures funds for the project. So my question is, if we award this bid to whoever, we can do the preliminary engineering, and it's paid on a time and material basis, the way I read it. And we get to the point of the city's securing funds, that's going to take some time unless we get started on it to figure out where the money's going to come from. And that's not in their schedules that they've sent with their bids. So if we can't get funding, can we terminate this package without doing the whole scope of work?
Anything on that, Andy?
So your question is, once we get to the preliminary design phase, if the city decides not to go farther with the project, my guess is that the bids will be tied to, just like any other project we do, that there'll be statements that the money's tied to as far as our payments are due. So both these companies seem to be reputable companies that would have a contract that way. I can't say that right off the top of my head. I reviewed the RFP recently to that effect. I reviewed it for some other things. So I don't know that I have an answer for you on that, Dave. I would assume that we're not going to pay for work they're not going to perform. But these are bids, and these bids are going to change because both the firms believe that it's going to require geometric improvements to make this intersection compliant with MUCTD. So I just don't think these bids are going to be accurate. I think they're going to be higher than what they are. We just don't know how much higher. We don't know which firm will be higher than others.
Well, I think the crosswalk,
I would like to have that information before I make a decision. I want to know how much higher it's going to be.
What?
What, Dave?
the deal on the crosswalks, whether we pay for them or whether we get a grant, I think that still factors into the geometric configuration of that intersection. So we're going to have to decide up front where we want our crosswalks and whether we put special, I don't know, markings or whatever. Maybe we get grants to do that, but if they need to reconfigure the intersection somehow with curbs or whatever, we're going to have to know that up front to get this thing started, in my opinion.
So that's why I don't feel comfortable moving ahead until we have that included, which we should have had this week. But
Well, it doesn't hurt anything to go back out for bids and get the whole package quoted, so we got figure out what to do after we get the bids.
so I don't know if I can just go ahead and make a motion.
So I think Brad laid out a suggestion that he and I talked about, rather than resubmitting the entire bid out, we have two firms that bid it and just asking them to. I mean, both the firms indicated it was going to be necessary, so they looked at it. I would think in a couple of weeks, they would be able to have a complete bid package for us to look at as far as our engine, and this is just the engineering costs. They're so close right now, if you look at observation hours and compare them side by side, or just that close, this would be the difference probably in the total price of the bid.
And I was under the understanding that that's what we were going for when we talked about the request for proposals, when we sent them out. I think as commissioners, we have to understand what our roles are, that if that's what we voted for, that's what we need to stay with. Any changes needs to go through the city administrator. So because of that, I think we need to stick with what we first said we were going to do and get something that would totally meet MUTCD standards. If we find out later we don't have to do the crosswalks and all that, which would be rather silly if we're saying we need this for safety, I can't imagine not. But I think I don't feel comfortable going forward until I know what the total picture is. And then, like Dave has been saying more than once, figure out if we can even pay for this.
Well,
You know,
I'm incredibly confused. Like I said, we've talked about how that they said that they would help us with funding of the crosswalk when we approved this. So I don't know how we got on different pages, but is there a disconnect of what's going on? Because like I said, even what I just read, it says if we decide.
But I think they're saying if they're required, because they haven't seen the engineering report either. So that's why I believe we need this engineering report to tell us if we need to make those. Like I said, there's two phases. One, can we meet the standards? And crossings, pedestrian crossings are part of the MUCTD. That thing is 834 pages long. I mean, it includes the requirements for pedestrian crossings. So I think when he says if we need them, I think we need to know if we need them. And then the second part of this project is the funding mechanism. And if they're going to help us with the funding mechanism for the pedestrian crossings, great. But that doesn't mean we won't need them. They've already said they're not going to approve this piecemeal. So if we need them, we can't do half the project one time and then do pedestrian crossings at the next. That's my fear, is that we're going to go through this expense, omit the geometric improvements, and then not be able to get a permit from KDOT to finish the intersection. I don't know if Brad shares that concern. That's a concern.
I do share that concern. Of all the emails and all the conversations that I've had with KDOT, especially the emails that I've received, the KDOT has stated multiple times that they want to help Hiawatha with pedestrian improvements, crosswalks. They really wanted sidewalks, crosswalks, whatever that may be. However, that was never from what I ever read, directly tied to this intersection. That was always tied to anything from walking trail improvements, crosswalks. This was back when we were talking about having RRFBs and Hawks that help pedestrians cross when we're talking about a road tire. That's where the emails that I have come from. And they also wanted to make clear that, because I think one of our fears was at the time that if we decide to keep the intersection as a traffic signal, that somehow those programs would be unavailable to the city of Hiawatha. And so they wanted to make it clear that those programs are going to be available to the city of Hiawatha, regardless of what we do at First and Oregon. I have the personal belief that they won't participate in any funding or something that they feel is unnecessary. It doesn't mean that we can't try to find funding in other sources, but I don't believe that KDOT will participate with these traffic signals in any form. And so what they were saying when Leroy was saying that this is all dependent on design, I asked that direct question at one point was, okay, well, what if we did, because there was discussion at one point, what if we did leave the pedestrian signals out to try to save cost? And the answer that I got back was that was going to be dependent on the design of the intersection, and that any exception to that would be noted without any clarification on what that meant.
And you did say, talking to both engineering companies who bid, that they do feel like that's gonna be required, that
At least,
there'll be some geometric.
at least,
Likely is the term that you use.
at least some sort of improvements will likely be necessary, and it didn't necessarily be crosswalks. They may have meant drainage and or, it really depends on, like, say, where the entrances to some of the businesses are. Some of those may well need to be closed off. But we won't know that until it's designed, until it's surveyed.
Anything else? Tony, anything else?
I don't know, my mind is I just. You all know what I think about KDOT.
We have to look at what are we gonna do to get the best picture.
I understand.
So Brian, anything else you wanted to add?
No.
Dave?
No.
I would like to make a motion to ask the two engineering companies who submitted the bids to resubmit with the addition of what geometric improvements would entail or cost or. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
You gotta vote for us.
I'm gonna go leave.
Motion passed 3-2. Did I need to put in that there needs to be a time?
Correction, that's part of it.
Then moving on to new business resolution number 2024-06.
Few meetings ago, I'm sorry, the first meeting in July, we discussed dilapidated properties, dangerous zone state, that consensus among the commission was to move forward on 5 properties. 3 of them are garages, 2 of them are houses. This resolution is the resolution making those findings. The code doesn't require us to pass this resolution. Brett and I believe it's the best way to go forward. That way we can provide some additional notice to those property owners. We can also provide a copy of this resolution to energy companies to discontinue the utilities at that on those the houses prior to demolition. That doesn't mean we're going to start it tomorrow. So take some time to get everything set up, and probably once the crews are done with the work they have to do in the summer. So since we're not required to pass this resolution, there's really not a service mechanism, but we're going to go ahead and send it by first class. I'm sorry, certified mail. We're going to publish this one.
Any other questions?
Um,
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-06, finding failure to commence repair or removal of structures within time permitted.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 2024-06. Any further discussion? Not Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passed 4-1. Brad, moving on to City Hall server.
So the server at City Hall is in need of replacement, and talks with our IT provider, Bachelor Controls. The server itself is out of date, it's also out of warranty. And so we had asked them to give us a few options to replace the server here at City Hall. They gave us two options that they gave us. One has a much higher capacity, storage capacity, has a 3.1 terabyte storage capacity, or actually has a 3.8 terabyte storage capacity. We're currently using about 1.44 terabytes. The second option at about 1.9 terabyte storage capacity. After talking to our IT, we feel like that option one would be the better of the two options for a number of reasons. I mean, the increased storage would definitely help us going into the future. We know that we have some room there to put things on that server. And also it has a little bit of a better warranty on it, 7-year versus 5-year. And so, sorry, apologize. But after talking about those two things, I would recommend the larger storage capacity of option one. And I recommend that we replace a server for City Hall for Bachelor Controls at a price of $11,850. The price for option two was $9,130. Like I said, I actually would recommend option one in this case.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to purchase a new server for Bachelor Controls, option one at the price of $11,800.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve option one for the City Hall server. Any further discussion? Not done. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Motion passed 5-0. Ryan Smith, you're up next with the water meter replacement. One of your favorite things to do.
Yes. For the last year, our meters have been kind of failing us. We have about 400 bad meters right now, which is about 30% of our read system. With that, 44 meters are about 2 to 4 inches, and with those, they're not catching all of our water usage. So that is a big income loss that we're losing for the city. We're spending countless hours just going out reading meters that they shouldn't be failing. What I would like to do is go for an RFP for a new water meter reading system. And then that system, I want to do AMI, which is the new technology for meter reading, where all the meters can be read by City Hall computer. And it would also help detect about leaks too with people's houses. So my recommendation would be that we send out RFP to water meter system companies, and then find the funding for the project, and also hire a contractor to replace all the meters.
So we just start out with the approval to go into RFP.
Just approving an RFP this year. Right now, this is just request for proposals.
Well, I recommend, if I may,
Yes, you may.
that we start looking for an appropriate and suitable meter company and find funding for this project. And we also propose that a contractor be hired to install the new meters.
I'll second
It's been moved and seconded to start looking for the replacement for the water meter. Any further discussion? If not, done. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed 5-0. I'm sorry. You're good. I saw receipt. Okay, moving on to number 4, potential special commission meetings.
So what we need to do is, after our budget work session tonight, we need to come up with a number that we send, that we publish to the paper that actually says what we're going to be proposing for that mill levy. And so what we would like to do is get some direction from the commission tonight and possibly set a potential meeting for Tuesday, August 27th at 7:30 a.m. via Zoom. Just the approval for the notice of budget hearing for publication. That's what we put in the paper. And that tells residents, what they can expect as far as our number of our mill levy is going to be.
Would there be any reason why we wouldn't do it tomorrow?
We can do it tonight. We kind of discussed mechanically how to work this meeting, because you can't adjourn the meeting and then recall the meeting. So we can either go into recess for an unspecified period of time tonight, or adjourn this meeting into a work session and then call tomorrow. We'll have an idea of what we need to do tomorrow. The meeting will last about 2 minutes probably. So choice of the commission whether they want to do it. Recess this for an undetermined time, or adjourn it tonight and then do it tomorrow.
Either way, I mean. Was there any reason why we can't just recess for it, or do we have to keep coming in saying we have to go to recess for longer?
That may be a possibility, just because the way we have our meetings format set up and participants. So, because work sessions won't be typically.
Fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with 7:30 tomorrow morning, Evans.
Everybody can participate by Zoom. So we'll be here.
Dave and Brian, would that work for the two of you?
I'm all right with it.
Dave's-
I won't be able to make it probably.
I mean, there's really no decisions there's not gonna be.
Right, so let me get a consensus tonight what our budget number is, but we can't take official action in a work session, so that's kind of my thought. Maybe we can knock that out sometime tomorrow. That way we can still get it to the newspaper by noon.
Okay. Well, then, as long as the two of you are okay with that, it's not, like I said, we're not trying to sneak anything by.
Oh,
So,
no.
okay, I'll make a motion that we approve a special commission meeting for Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 at 7:30 a.m. via Zoom for approval of the notice of budget hearing for publication. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No, done.
I just like,
Aye.
I'd like to say, since I probably won't be able to make it in the morning, I think it's responsible for us to stay at like maybe a 4% increase only and be responsible, because even with last year's increase at a 4%, that's a 21% raise in taxes in the past 2 years. So I hope that everyone can be responsible and make sure that we keep that low this year after last year's 16.4%. So I won't be approving anything that's over a just rate of somewhere around 3 or 4%.
Any further discussion? Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was just for the meeting.
Yeah, this is for the meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we have to, do we have a motion on the table?
Yeah.
Voted on.
We did? Oh,
So, Brian, did you go?
Aye.
Aye.
I voted aye.
Okay,
oh, we did.
we just didn't have Brian. That's, he went
Okay.
into discussion. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. The internet connection isn't the best, Brian, so you kind of pop in and out sometimes too, so. Anyway, well, the motion passed again, so. Whew, moving on to communications. Anything we need to add to that?
No, just a July judge's report is all we have under communications.
Okay. Executive session,
I need 5 minutes. I'd like Brad, I'd like Dawn and myself to be invited. So,
this is attorney.
no, it's not elected person.
I'd like to make a motion that you said 5 minutes. I'd like to make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for a period of 5 minutes to discuss matters regarding the issue of potential city personnel. The justification for closing the meeting is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume at 6:27. In the commission chambers and to include the city administrator and the city attorney and city commission.
Second.
And
And city clerk. Ready to go? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
read it from the backside meter or just?
Your side.
Both sides of the meter.
No, just the customer side.
Just the customer side.
Hold on, and we'll go and check and see if it's upset or.
So that costs more.
Someone's argument.
Yes.
Could you make a motion at 6:27? The city commission is called back into open meeting. The commission took no binding action during executive session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Okay, governing body comments. I need to go home, but I suppose that's not one. I don't really have anything. Brian, do you have anything?
I just would like to say a little bit, quickly about the street light. I feel like we've put a lot of roadblocks up in front of us as a city, and I'd like to make sure that we're giving this a fair chance and get this, some real numbers and find out if we can really make this happen or not. And, I hope that we can put some differences aside on this and make a collective decision whether we can do this or not. But that's all I've really got, and I hope that we can come to agreement and get this figured out and see if we can make it happen or not. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Well, we're getting closer. We're getting closer once we get all the numbers. And I agree. We need to get the information to move forward. Dave? Dave, do you have anything?
Dave, you're muted. Do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Evans?
I don't have anything this evening.
Tony?
I don't believe I have any either, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting and then move on to a budget work session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0.
Just things up.
Yeah. Shut on. Well, that takes stay on so he can comment.
Oh, Brian's not gonna.
Huh?
Brian's
I don't think so. He just. Well, no. He said.
So if you join the Zoom, right, from your computer.
What's that?
If you join the Zoom from your computer, then all you know your sharing functions. You can share your slides.
Oh, you need to show your slides. So
So is there a way? Yes, can we get it done?
Let's try to figure that out real quick. Let's get something. Let's
So try to,
work through those technical difficulties real fast and we'll,
Dave, if you want to take a 10-15 minute break, if you can, we're gonna try to get it so we can broadcast the budget slideshow and stuff. There's
That's fine. I'll be here.
okay.
You want me to get some food?
No, I can. Thank you, I appreciate it.
That's
So it's not you can join today.
Oh, that's a meeting.
And I don't know if he's like that. When he was my slab.
My friend, who are you with?
Well, I've been helping, working with Brad on budgets. So I'm a retired city manager. With the city related. I don't know, I'm looking around, I don't know if people in there.
For city commission.
Okay.
Nobody's running against you. So we are in favor of you. This may runs the right end.
Yeah, well, it's good to be. First. I can tell you from meeting Brad, so, you know.
Yes. Separate copies, so you're- and everybody's there.
Days and we
Yeah.
just hard copies of the package
Yeah.
and stuff.
It's kind of like the.
Candidates, and we started distributing.
Yes.
You know,